Hi guys, and welcome back to the Twisted Bar Spoon channel, the channel where we help the home bartender elevate their home bartending skills. On today's episode, we're going to focus on a few spirit categories that you should have in your home bar to make your home bar a little bit more successful and a little bit easier to work with. Now let's get right to it, and we're going to talk about different types of spirits. Today we're going to start off by talking about probably the most common spirit found in most people's household, vodka. Now, why is vodka so popular? I would have to say because it has that neutral flavor. If you're looking to get a little alcohol in you and you're not really fond of, let's say, something strong flavored like a whiskey or too prominent like, let's say, a gin, this is a perfect spirit to essentially just blend into any juice or any pop that you already have at home without really altering the flavor too much while still getting that alcohol intake. Now, a few cocktails that you might need vodka for would be obviously a vodka martini, a Bloody Mary or a Caesar. If you're looking to make a cosmopolitan, typically that calls for Absolute Citron, which is a lemon or citrus flavored vodka, but you can absolutely just use plain vodka by adding your own little bit of citrus in there yourself. Cape Codder would be among those as well, and of course Long Island iced tea. So it's always nice to have a bottle of vodka on hand because you never know when you might need it. Now we're gonna move on to some gin. So gin can either be made typically out of corn, wheat, or barley. Gin is very, very similar to vodka when it's at its base form. The only difference is that it's flavored either with botanicals or some herbs, sometimes some citrus fruit as well. Gin has actually been said to be the first ever flavored vodka. That being said, you will need some gin at home. Gin soda is my personal favorite highball. Gin and tonic's always favored for guests as well, so always make sure to have a bit of gin at home, maybe some tonic. If you're looking to make a gimlet or a classic martini, a Tom Collins or a gin fizz, these are all reasons to have some gin at home. There are also some other recipes that call for gin, such as the Long Island iced tea, which we mentioned with the vodka. Basically, if you can make a Long Island iced tea, you have all the base ingredients minus the whiskey that you might need in your home bar. Moving on now to tequila. Hate it or love it. That's usually how it goes for tequila. So when choosing a tequila, I highly recommend looking for something on the bottle that says 100% agave. That means it is a pure tequila made with blue agave. If you're looking for something like a tequila that's a little bit less expensive, you're not gonna get a real tequila and you're gonna get a lot of that funky flavor. Really, you're looking for some smooth agave flavor. And obviously it has to come from Mexico. If it does not say 100% agave on the bottle, chances are it's a mixto. So a mixto is essentially real tequila mixed with something else. So it's essentially a blend. It doesn't have that pure tequila flavor that you're looking for. Also, when choosing your tequila, there's a few things that you gotta consider. You're gonna notice there's gonna be a blanco or silver tequila, reposado or añejo. Those are all terms that essentially mean if they're aged a little bit, or not aged at all. Really, if you're looking for that pure agave flavor, and it's also usually less expensive, go for your classic silver or blanco tequila. If you're looking for something a little bit more refined, a little bit smoother, you can start going for something that's a little bit more aged, but you're gonna get a lot of that oak flavor in there as well, some of those woody flavors. So if you're just looking for pure, simple tequila, honestly, just to start off your bar, I would stick to the blanco or silver tequila. That's a good way to go, and you're actually gonna get that full tequila flavor. Moving on to rums now. Now rums, very interesting category. These guys aren't as regulated as all the other spirits that we've been talking about. Pretty much anything goes in the rum world. Think pirates, pirates do what they want, kind of goes with the rum world. You know, you can find different types of rum. They vary in quality, they vary in flavor, but the one thing that they all kind of have in common is that funk. So that funky smell, that funky taste, that's pretty much the only way we can describe it. That's essentially coming from the sugarcane or from the molasses of the sugarcane. Being a sugarcane distillate, rum is fairly on the sweeter side typically, but it can also be dry. If you're gonna be using your rum in, let's say, a coffee drink, I would recommend going for a sweeter, darker rum. If you're gonna be using your rum for something more crisp and refreshing, you want that dryness, let's say for something like a mojito or something like a daiquiri, then I would recommend going for a white rum. But at the base, you should absolutely have at least one kind of rum in your bar stock at home. I recommend starting with a white rum and then growing your rum collection as you go. And of course, no bar would be complete without having some whiskey in your bar stock. So it's really up to you. You can get some bourbon, some rye, a Canadian blend. There's some Irish whiskeys or a Scotch. It comes down to personal preference and again, what you're gonna be using it for primarily. Just a couple things to consider when choosing your whiskey for home. If you're going the bourbon route, keep in mind that bourbon tends to be a little bit on the sweeter side as well as more of a full body. If you're looking for something a little bit spicier with a little bit more of a light body, go for some nice American rye or Canadian rye. If you like the blend of both, a good choice would be a Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskey or even Canadian rye doesn't necessarily only contain rye in it. Sometimes you're looking at a nice mix of barley grains, corn, and rye mashed together. If you like that smokiness of the peat that you get from a Scotch, then of course you want to upgrade and get a Scotch as well. Scotches vary in price, they vary in age as well. So do a little bit of research before you pick your Scotch. And of course, if you're looking for something on the sweeter side that has that spice as well, I would say go for an Irish whiskey. But at the base, you should have at least one whiskey in your home bar to complete your setup. So my recommendation here for a bottle of whiskey for your home bar would be bourbon or rye. Bourbon if you like something a little bit sweeter, rye if you like something a little bit spicier, mainly because those are the two most versatile whiskeys when it comes to cocktail making. They're pretty interchangeable. They're just gonna change the profile a little bit. So keep that in mind. Now we're gonna talk about vermouths or aperitivos. Essentially what these guys do is they add a little bit of depth and dimension when you're making cocktails. You absolutely can't really make a martini without a dry or a white vermouth, which you can replace with an aperitivo like Coqui Americano here. You can even use some Lila Blanc if you want to make the James Bond style martini, the Vesper. And of course, if you want to make a Manhattan or if you want to make a Negroni, you will need some sweet or some red vermouth as they call it. Now keep in mind that we need to treat these like wine. They have a very low ABV compared to your typical spirit, but I would recommend getting a white and a red for your bar stock, but just be sure that once you've opened them, that you keep them refrigerated so that they stay nice and fresh and flavorful, or else they're gonna start losing their flavor as they oxidize every single day. And of course, now we're gonna talk about triple sec or even Cointreau or even Grand Marnier. So these are orange curacao. They're orange liqueurs and they're used in a lot of cocktails. They actually add some nice dimension, orange flavors and sweetness to a lot of these cocktails. I would not start a home bar without having one bottle of triple sec, mainly because it calls for it in a lot of classic recipes and it's absolutely delicious. And last but not least, when you start your home bar, you will require some bitters. A lot of these classic recipes that you might read in a book require for bitters, Angostura being the most common aromatic bitter. You can find Angostura just about anywhere, grocery stores to liquor stores, so keep your eye out for the yellow cap and the oversized label that comes right over the top. This adds some notes of clove, some spiciness, kind of some baking spice, some cinnamon in there as well. Very, very important when you're making an old fashioned or a Manhattan. Another bitters that I would recommend is orange bitters. This can be used in a multitude of ways. Fantastic with a couple dashes in a martini, in a cosmopolitan. There's a lot of recipes also who call for orange bitters. I would recommend either some Angostura orange bitters, which is the same as the aromatic bitters, but orange flavored, or some Regan's No. 6. This has a little bit more depth and more spicy notes to it, which goes really, really well with darker liqueurs. It really blends in those oak and wood flavors with the nice, bright, floral notes and fruity notes of orange. Now these are the basic spirits that you need to start your home bar. Just keep in mind that when you go out to the store, always look in the aisle and look for some deals. That way you can keep stocking up your bar, getting some new and interesting product without breaking the bank. Now thanks for joining us at the Twisted Bar Spoon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell. If you have any questions or if there's anything that you would want me to make a video on or clarify anything, please leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for joining the Twisted Bar Spoon channel and we'll see you soon.